There are many people still trying to make the definitive John Delorean biopic. How we came to the story is we were actually approached by one of the companies trying to make the narrative version to see if we would do the documentary companion piece. I mean, this was years ago. Yeah. And it never went anywhere. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, we started talking about John's story and all of these competing narrative films that were all greenlit by, legit people, heavy hitters. None of them came to fruition. So we started having a conversation about what is it about this guy that Hollywood is obsessed with that seems larger than life, and why can't anyone crack the code?
I think part of the thing about biopics, they ebb and flow in Hollywood. I think there's some certain years that there's a lot of biopics, like this past one, Bohemian Rhapsody being one. I think. Hollywood. I think one of the things about John's story is what we came to really gravitate towards when we came up with the idea of like using the kind of narrative framework in the whole thing is that Hollywood producers love John's story because they see so much of themselves in John. As like, what's harder than making a movie? Well, building your own car company, right? So I think like a lot of producers really latch onto John's story in a way that like really gets, like they get it. And I think there's so much obsession because John's story is crazy. It really is a kind of like stranger than fiction type story with all the elements. And people know the Back to the Future element, and they know the cocaine maybe a little bit. But there's so much more to his story that I think a lot of people, depending on your age range, you may know a little bit about it, or you may have your facts wrong about it. So for us, it was a great opportunity because first and foremost, it's a great story. John's story is a great story. So we knew we had that, we always had that to fall back on. But like the approach of using, the scripted scenes and then having Alec kind of like getting into the character, that really like fleshed it out for us to make it something really exciting that we wanted to make happen.
That maybe we could crack the code by talking about how no one else seemed to be able to crack the code. What is it about this guy? And I think as attractive as John's story is, once you really get into who he was as a person, he's harder to figure out. Is he a hero? Is he a villain? Can he be both? There were lots of people from different areas of his life that were aligned with each of these projects. Why is it that there were so many people who claim to have been very, very close to him that have wildly differing versions of who that man was? He's the perfect example of this gray area in, the human condition. He was absolutely entrapped by the government. There's no question about that. That doesn't mean he was innocent.
One of the most challenging things about the film was that, we were in a little bit of uncharted territory because obviously, there's been plenty of documentaries, especially now with the documentaries expanding, kind of the creative form a little bit and doing, experimental things. And there's obviously reenactments are a huge part of documentaries and always have been. But now that like we made one movie, which was made the documentary portion of it first. We identified the scenes that we wanted to script, and we wrote those. And then once Alec came on board, we filmed all that stuff. But then we made it additionally harder for ourselves by filming all of us making the scripted scenes. So all of a sudden, we basically we started making another movie as soon as we got the rest of that footage.
Yeah,
so
we ripped apart all of the documentaries.
We basically made 2 films in the span of making one film.